Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Viz Review live session, a bi-weekly session where Chimdi and I review database that we've been tagged into dashboards and all of that with the aim of giving feedback to help people grow and help people connect and also like inspire others. My name is Zainab. I am a data scientist based in London, and I will pass it over to Chimdi for a quick intro.
Thanks, Zainab. Hi, everyone. My name is Chimdi. I'm a database developer and designer based in BC, Canada. And like Zainab said, we're just here to give feedback on visits, help people improve, add value to the community because, when we started, this sort of thing was really helpful to us. And now that we've sort of kind of settled into the space, comfortable in our careers, we want to help those who are looking to get, an understanding of what good presentation looks like. So, if you want to know how to submit your stuff, just visit me live on Twitter or
YouTube?
Tableau. Yes, YouTube, right? Or just post in the Tableau community feedback group and we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah.
And so with that, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. I think we have a few today, so I'm just going to share my screen. Just give me a thumbs up once you see my screen up.
All here.
Fantastic. All right, let's start the first one. Okay, this looks like an assignment for context because there's a Tableau community Slack channel where people can tag us in their visits, and we do get a few like entries from like students sometimes and some assignments, and this looks to be one of that. As always, Chim, did you want to kick us off with this?
Sure, we can get going. So this assignment looks to be trying to analyze seasonal and staffing pressure flight volumes versus disruption patterns in 2022. Okay, so that's a definitely descriptive title.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And we can look at, okay, so it seems like there's a continent filter. So I assume that the data is available by continent. And right up the front, we can see, okay,
Interesting. What like the bar chart
what?
disappeared after I filtered.
Huh.
I don't know if that's by design,
Yeah.
but
I have a feeling they may have synchronized the axis or done something where, because they're combining a percentage line chart with a absolute number. So that's
right.
interesting. Okay. All right. So just looking at this right off the bat, I will say that the one chart, like on the bottom left, it's interesting. I think that's breaking out the total flights into some kind of okay, I think that might be a status because I can see canceled, delayed, and on time. And then I see another heat map that highlights the trend by the month. I think the intent is decent. I like the clean white background. What I would say is if I were to see this person and they asked me for feedback, I would refer them to the visual vocabulary to have a look at the available charts there, right? What do you want to show, right? Trends over time, et cetera, et cetera. Start from there, pick something that works, and then utilize that. Me personally, with that top chart, I like that it's big and it's got the bars and everything. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I think dual axes have their place, but usually I would do that if I'm comparing similar measures. I wouldn't necessarily do
Right.
that if I'm comparing like a ratio to an absolute value. So that's something to think in to keep in mind. Um, and if anything, I mean, it might make sense to have maybe have a switch measure. Like if you want to look at, the ratio then or the absolute, you can have a toggle or something. That way you can kind of allow people to view one or the other. Layout wise, I think it works. I would suggest maybe make the titles a little bit bigger as well. And so I think just to summarize, I get what's happening here. I would think through, like I like the seasonality chart, right? But the colors are kind of shouting in a sense. So I think it's a good first attempt. I would try to refine the top chart for sure to see if there's a way I can better display that. I would look into that continent filter, make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, for all these colors and things that are showing up, maybe add some legends so that we know where to go. But overall, I think it's like a good attempt. I can kind of see I think they were trying to go for like a trend and then just like an overall status and then a monthly thing. So the thought process is really good. I would say that, obviously you can tell they're a beginner. This is a school thing. And so they're kind of getting to that point where I think they need to start thinking about actual like design language and using that to communicate, color, layout, hierarchies and things like this. So that's what I think. It's just refinement as required, but it's understandable given that they're a beginner. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you've said most of it. I really like the title. I think it's very clear. I also like that they've done some things here in calling out some highlights. So the busiest month, slowest month, big disruption, busiest quarter. It tells me that there's some analytical thinking there as to what to highlight. However, I want to be able to see that just by looking at the vis. So if the busiest month is August, maybe instead of painting all of this blue, maybe we use like a lighter color and then we highlight August blue. So instantly my time to insight is very short because I'm looking at the chart. August is being called out by color, and then I know something is happening there. So rather than just like, I mean, of course, it's nice to have the text as well, but that visual call out, I think, will also be very helpful. Another thing that I would say with this section is I really like the idea of the trend. I think it's a bit hard to interpret. A couple of things going on here. So first, you have the dual axis, and they are different, like aggregates. So one is a ratio, one is an absolute. Then you have the reference line, the average, and then you have some like annotations. And I feel like that makes it a little bit hard to interpret. What I would say is, if what you are trying to do is show that, okay, whilst, for example, August has the most number of flights, the most disruption is happening in September. Maybe there's a way to show that relationship better. Maybe these two could actually be just line charts, and so that we can see as like the number of flights increases, what happens to the disruption. And that way you start to actually now draw the insights rather than just presenting the data. And maybe also what you want to do is to, I think I would clean this up a little bit. So if I've gone for like same line chart, like dual axis, if you want to keep that, I would want to kind of clean it up. Do I really need all the labels showing? Do I just want to highlight like the key ones? What are the different things that I can do there to just kind of declutter this vid a little bit? Do I need to show the average? Maybe just having like the line, maybe playing around with the color. I think I'll try to clean this up just a little bit more. Also, putting low July 66%, like it's quite obvious that this is July, except you're calling something out that we can't tell, then I feel like you can do things with color and trying to call out like, specific months. And also maybe this could even be just like a bar chart. Not that I would recommend, but like say you have like side by side bar charts. So the first one is the number of flights, and the second one next to it is the combined disruption rate. So that way you can actually see and compare easily. So I really like the idea of like starting with a big trend, but then I would make the inside there very clear and obvious from the jump. Then I think you've said everything with the color. I think one more thing that I will add is, of course, how the legends, because right now I can't really tell what like blue, green, like green, orange, yellow is here. But also maybe we'll consider the color here because just think accessibility, green and red is not always great together. And right now you are not having any other types of encoding. Just think if this chart was like shades of gray, would I be able to tell the difference in these colors? Probably not. So I want to consider more accessible colors, and I would want to also have the legend there. But in addition to that, I'm also not sure if this is helpful. The numbers seem quite similar to me. If what we want to show is the Q3 peak, I'm not sure this chart is actually showing that Q3 is peaking, right? So maybe something else to just call that out a bit more. Is it picking across all categories? Is it picking across in specific like flight status? Maybe there's a way to just like show that a bit more, maybe showing the like percentage difference or the Q over Q growth or something like that, that just like actually shows me that, okay, the volume is peaking in Q3, but you can also see that clearly. And here, I mean, I don't mind the heat map. I think kind of shows where the most flights are happening and the ones that are on time, etc. So I don't really have much like comments out there, but all I'll say is overall I think there's a kind of clear flow in terms of like the storytelling here, but just like cleaning the charts, choosing the right chart types, and making that time to insight as quick as possible is something that will take this up the next step. But I really appreciate that this author has clearly done some things to clean up the viz and make it look yeah, nice and decluttered. And also, yeah, the filters, if you have a filter, it should work. Also, I'm not sure if this filter should be taking up this whole space. Why not just like embed it somewhere in the viz, maybe
Mm,
just right under the title
yeah.
or somewhere that won't require it to just take a lot more space on the right. But yeah, that's everything for me. I think good attempt on this one, especially for a newcomer or a newbie to Tableau.
Yeah. Definitely.
All right, let me go into the next one. Is this the same one? Right. So I think it's the same author. Actually, should we come back to this in the interest of time so we can do more like if you have them
Right.
at the
Okay.
end, we can
A
redo that. But let's
similar.
say I look at other like
Yeah.
authors as well.
I
So
guess they're trying different versions.
yeah. And okay, I really like this. So it looks like actually I thought it was the same data, but it's not. All right. What am I
Wait,
seeing?
it's not the same thing? Oh, this is, I guess,
This says global
global.
air
This is
travel.
also about travel
It
as well.
might be
Okay.
actually, but different rendition it seems. And this dashboard, I
Actually, you
can
know what? I'll tell you why I think it is.
yeah,
Because I'm looking at those ratios of
yeah.
the on time delayed 33, 33, 33 is
Mm.
literally kind of what we saw on the other one where they were like almost the same height. So maybe I'm tripping. Never mind.
Yeah, no, no, you're right. Because 33 is the like inverse of like 66, whatever. All right. So they're
Yeah.
showing
Yeah.
whatever the
Yeah.
opposite of the disruption rate is. So that's interesting.
Interesting. So maybe they're in like the same class or something.
Yeah, so it's
And they
likely
told each other, let's put it together in the community feedback group or something like this.
it's possible. I mean, we've seen that before. But again, this is a completely different, I guess, approach if it was the same
Yeah.
data. Let me see. Global air travel in 2022, demand, reliability, and delay patterns. Again, I think that's a clear title. I think I
Hmm.
appreciate that they've tried to have this like overall bands, like this big, big ass numbers, or if whatever the PG version of that is. Um, they've tried to have like these big metrics that show you, okay, total passengers were considered, and I appreciate the subtitle across 6 continents, January to December, flights on time, flights delayed, and flights cancelled. Looks like this is not a good like it's pretty much their can flights are cancelled as much time as they're delayed. Um,
Yeah.
and then from there we say in 2022 across all the flights, only 1 in 3 arrived on time. The rest were either delayed or cancelled. I actually like this subtitle. I would put it on top and make it bigger rather than just like nestle it down
Yeah.
somewhere because I think that's like a interesting insight to start with that makes you actually then say, okay, I've seen the big numbers, I've seen the big subtitle. Let me now dig into the exploration. Let me dig into the details that I'm kind of seeing below. So I'll put this on top. I'll make that slightly bigger. Also, for this like bands, these KPIs, I'll maybe try to consider my font hierarchy. Right here, we have the titles, but the titles seem to be the same font, maybe just a tiny, maybe one, point bigger than the subtitle. But maybe what you can do is like use a bold for the title or make it slightly bigger. So there's a clear text hierarchy. You're going title, a subtitle, and then the big number. So I would say that, and then I'll move the subtitle just right on top and make it clear. Then next to that, it looks like everything. I mean, I can't go through all of that, but it looks like we're now going into like exploration, right? So North America and Asia dominate. I Okay, so in terms of like passenger count, well, yes, I wonder if I like that the title is being more insightful. But I wonder if is this by design? Is it because like these regions had more airports, Is it because the data set, like it was a collection like, so if there's a why, I think that will help me to really contextualize this. For me, I'm not surprised if, North America, I feel like they probably have I'm sure there's so many airports in America. It's like a flight, same with Asia. So it's like they dominate, but why? And just trying to
Hmm.
contextualize that will then start to push the analysis like bit of this. No airport achieved major on-time flight. Again, I think this is a clean one. I actually quite like the stacked bar here. I think it's like very effective to see the on time, delayed, cancelled. But I don't love the legend because it's the same legend all across, right? On time title. Maybe just a small color legend there so we don't have to repeat the label across all of the bars, I think will help. And maybe in that case, we just want to show the actual percentage, or we keep it clean like that, and then we rely on the tooltip to show more details. But I don't think you need to be that repetitive. The labels do not change across all of the fields, right? And also, I think one thing I'm sensing here is I feel like there's a bit of color. I feel like the colors are in the same grade, but on time here is green, on time here is gray. Why is that, right? Delayed here is brown, and then it's a different color here. That consistency in color is, those are the little things that really make your viz look professionally done and actually make your stakeholders trust your dashboards, right? And so yeah, that's what I'll say to that. Again, this is like similar like heat map, but I feel like it's a screenshot, and I don't know why you would want to put a screenshot of a heat map.
It does look like a screenshot,
Yeah, it
doesn't it?
does. It looks like something that was created in Python because this font looks like a
Yeah,
plastic matplotlib. But why would you do that? You're already in
good
tab.
catch.
It breaks the experience, and then there's this line on top that I don't really understand. It's like you can easily create a heat map within this tool that you've chosen.
Yeah.
Try to keep things consistent, and like also I can't really interact with a screenshot. I can't. The numbers are so tiny. Like I would reconsider that, right? And yeah, I feel like there's so many other things we can just focus on this one view. So yeah, Chimdi,
Mhm.
back to you.
Awesome. No, I think you've hit a lot of great points here. And I think if I'm thinking about this, right, I'm thinking you're talking to us about you want to show some trends. And so I'm expecting that as I'm going through your work, I want to be learning something new as I move along. And so as a rule of thumb, something that I like to use just before I start talking about this, I would say one main takeaway per chart, and then there can be supporting stuff there. So, for example, that top level, sure, that makes sense. You're letting us know the number of passengers, you're breaking out the status. I love that. That makes sense. You know, when we go to the next one, I'm thinking, okay, so I see it looks like the line charts for each continent. I wouldn't necessarily label the continents on here just because we can't even really see the labels
Yeah,
anyways.
yeah,
And so one way to think about labels are particularly for a biz like this, where it's not necessarily a business dashboards, it's more a communication piece. You want to basically utilize text effectively. So you want to add annotation and text to things that you want that they should help people. Don't just label everything because you have labels to add. I think that takes away from the quality of what you're trying to show. It is, after all, data viz, not writing. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what I say about this. Same thing would apply to the third chart. Like Zainab said, I do like the breakout of the stacked bars. It makes it somewhat easy to compare, the ratios of everything status-wise across the airports. Um, Now, what I would say about the heat map thing is it does seem as though, there is a clear pattern, but then you know, let me see what is the darker,
so the
I need my,
delay it looks like, is it this part?
okay, so, okay. And so the left axis is, man, this font is extremely tiny.
Yeah, so
So
this
I
is
guess
day
for
of the
this,
week
just,
and month. Yeah, it's a bit tiny.
yeah, so I guess I would say overall, let me just step back. So color wise, we want to use colors to communicate. So for example, if we have these six continents, right, and you want to have a color per continent, then do that, right? And then have a legend or just label the continents, whatever one you choose, but don't necessarily do both. I mean, double encoding is useful in some areas, but if it's detracting from your viz, then I would say take it away. And, I think it seems like this person kind of put a bunch of charts together. And I would say when putting a chart together, it has to answer some kind of question. It has to give some kind of insight. The user should leave there with something, right? So that's what I would say with this. A lot of this stuff seems focused around the delays and, the statuses. But at that top level, it's already obvious to us that there's just about an equal chance of anything
Yeah.
happening. I would try to dig deeper and figure out what else can we put. So you
Right.
have your main information and then you want to have supporting information. So for this one, I would say actually thinking about the story you want to tell is what I'll focus on more, stripping back those colors to say, is there a way that I can make this more strategic so that the colors are communicating? Because right now, it definitely looks like coloring is just for coloring, which is why I'm assuming that they have a different palette up front, a different palette at the bottom. So if you are going to use colors, I would recommend tying it together. That just helps it, make it easier for people to recognize those patterns. But I do like these colors that have been chosen. Like as
Yeah.
I've said, these are beautiful colors. And so overall, that's what I would say is focus on what is that, storyline that you're trying to give. You start with your main information. If you want to tell us that these many are delayed, these many flights, that's great context, right? And then now just follow up with, okay, maybe is there anything else in the data that's talking
Yeah.
about why? And then one more final thing is just use the titles very well. You know what I mean? They seem really small here. I would add a little bit more space around the charts, give it that breathing room.
Yeah.
That way, your user can actually traverse in a specific pattern, which you can drive subconsciously by your layouts, right? You have a main chart, you have your supporting charts. You want to add annotations because in this storytelling format, lots of room to add annotations. And I think people actually appreciate that kind of stuff. So, just utilize those accordingly. For this and the previous one, I would say definitely analytical skills top notch. If they were to combine that with some functional design thinking with data communication, A plus. So that's what I say for both of these two. And of course, this is something that isn't necessarily taught in school per
Yeah.
se. And so, where do you kind of, yeah, so you might have to do some research around that. Come to the data fam. Lots of people write about this stuff. Lots of people blog about this stuff.
Yeah.
Just functional aesthetics, communication, that kind of stuff. That's what I would say for these first two. But I love the analytical stuff, the thinking. But of course, the analysis should serve a purpose. So if we know this information, can we then act upon it?
Yeah.
That's something to keep in mind. Yeah. It's like telling us the number of flights, or what is that? The number of the
Delay.
second one, the departure dates and the passenger count. Like if someone were to find out how many passengers are on the flights, is that information going to be useful for them in making any kind of changes to impact the experience? If not, then I don't think we need to tell them how many passengers are on each
Yeah.
flight. If that is important information, sure. But right now, I don't know. Just thinking about, it's like, okay, these many people are affected, so you might want to focus there. But like Zainab said, those kinds of patterns are not necessarily inherent. They could be by design. If one airport is larger, then it's going to have more passengers. So that doesn't necessarily tell us anything real for now. And so that's the kind of thinking that I think helps with respect to when you're talking to people about something. You want to think about, is this information relevant? And if so, then yes, why is it relevant? And you want to just kind of follow those trains of thinking. So a bunch of stuff all together. But again, I'm
Yeah.
speaking a lot on this just because this is a student. You're not yet in a workplace, so there's a lot of opportunity for you to go through a lot of things. So just keep that in mind. We're not trying to butcher the viz. We're just saying that when it comes to this data viz thing, there are definitely a lot of considerations to be made, and you're in a space where you have the time and opportunity to actually go through a lot of these things and
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
really amazing at this. But good job, I would say. Like I remember starting out, I mean, none of us could just, I mean, some, but yeah, this is
Yeah.
good for a starting. And I think there's lots of room to go. And yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they're already asking for feedback. So that to me is like A plus.
Completely agree. And I think that was a really nice recap. And I think lots of the feedback you gave, they apply to bunch of like different things, more like different can apply to multiple visits. All right, this is like
Yeah.
a minimal one that we have here. Ta-
Hmm.
30-day chat challenge, day 8. So this is clearly like a challenge, and it seems like the challenge is to do something secular. I don't know if I have the 30-day chat challenge link here, just to like contextualize. Um,
I think they have like a GitHub repo that's for
yeah,
this. Yeah.
so there's The
April 2025.
wait, what year is it? Anyway, we don't need to look into this. We don't have time. But okay. So the challenge here is something secular. I'm not sure what type
Mhm,
of feedback like this like author is like looking for. Obviously, they're constrained by what they are trying to show. So we can only give
mhm,
feedback based on what we see. And I think the first feedback I would say is, first of all, I like that it's very compact. I love when a single chart can tell a story without having like multiple different charts. But the first thing I would say I'm going to come back to is color. I think green and
mhm.
red is always like you always need to consider more people cannot see these colors together than you would think of. Like at place of work, I mean, there are so many people, even just everyday people, that are not able to tell the difference between green and red. And so just like opting for accessible colors will go a long way. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing here is I do appreciate that they're trying to look at profit, sales, and quantity by month. Month.
Month, yeah,
So this is
12, 12,
month
12
one. Oh, so
sectors.
it's month
Yeah.
and year. Honestly, I think
Yeah.
creatively, I like it. But as you can see, this seems only impactful when there's much difference across the years. Otherwise, you just
Hmm.
have like a green chart or like a pink chart, right? And I guess, for example,
Yeah.
maybe that's why it's more obvious with like the profit where
The
there's some
profit,
negative and like
it's
there's a
more.
variation. So in that sense, I don't know what type of feedback they're looking for, considering that this is just there's a specific constraint in this challenge to keep it secular. So
Mhm.
I'm going to just keep it short and say maybe work on the color. I appreciate that it's a clean format, very compact. The tooltips are formatted, but yeah, I don't know if you wanted to add any other thing, Chimdi.
Yeah, first of all, I guess I will say that, Iris is here in Vancouver as well. So when I saw that name, I was like, I'm just gonna pick her biz. So there's a little bit of favoritism going on with this one. But I will say I do like the legend, and this, at least when it comes to profit, there seems to be some kind of clear pattern, and we can see the year 23, 24, 25, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
It looks nice. I think it's well done from a chart building perspective. And, just like Zainab said, simple layout, you got the filter there. I would put the filter at the top. I would also put the legend at the top. Not that it's terrible at the bottom, but I just think that imagine this view and then imagine like clean everything at the top and then you have your circle radial chart and then just empty at the bottom. I think that would look even more cleaner than it is now, but this is really clean. And then I'm going to step back and talk about the actual analysis. One of the things that is key when we have data is we're going to do our explorations, right? We're going to do our pre-analysis to see is there anything interesting that we want to show. And so, I haven't interacted with this data, but when I look at the profit, this looks like there's definitely some seasonality going on or some kind of pattern there. But then for the other two, I don't know that there's enough variation that I would want to put them here like this. And so, from a building perspective, yes, but from here, there's not much to glean from this. They're all almost the same. And so I'll just put that as an aside. Not too much else. So I'll say clean and clear work. I love the chart. It's a nice technical either use map players. There's different ways of doing this now in Tableau. So I like that part. I like the clean, clear air. If I were doing this, I'll just keep it at profit and,
yeah,
leave it at this. Maybe at the bottom, you can now add an annotation to discuss some kind of trends across the years. And so that way, as the user is looking, they can see what they see. And then when they're done, they can see what you saw and they can kind of tie that together and walk away with a whole bunch of information like, oh, fantastic. Now we know that profit is this and month this and this goes up in this month and this goes this and this year, blah blah blah, whatever you want that to be.
yeah. I think
But this looks good. This looks
yeah,
good.
I
This
would
looks good.
also
I
say
can.
that I'm just like taking time to appreciate that, like in Tableau, obviously, this is not a native type of chart. There are many ways to do it, but
Mhm.
this takes some
Yeah.
technical, I guess, ability to kind of
Yeah.
even pull off something like this. I do not think this chart is something that is meant to be really read for insight. It seems more just like how can I push myself to
Mm.
do a
Good
circular
point.
type
Good
of
point.
chart, like
Good point. Good point.
because, like for
Yeah.
example, I'm looking at the sales and this inner. arc is smaller than this outer arc, but the value is actually bigger. But again, like that's just
Right.
by design of many things. So I'm not looking at this vis
Yeah.
and thinking this is like a vis. I think to me it seems like it's more creative and they're just trying to
Yeah.
learn how to do something specific. And I appreciate that. If I wanted to pick it, I
Yeah.
would say like the sales, profit, quantity, as I toggle through these metrics, this legend does not change. It seems fixed on the profit legend for me.
Static.
Just
Yeah.
like look into that. But again, I think this is like a clean one in terms of their just technical ability to be able to pull something like this off.
Hmm.
Kudos to them for doing
Yeah,
that.
I know Irish. She's been posting a lot of stuff on LinkedIn and she's been really pushing herself. So I think you are definitely correct in the
Yeah,
sense of her trying to get better and trying to push herself and everything. And like, yeah, she's been putting out a lot of good stuff.
that's
I've been
good to
paying
hear.
attention.
And thanks for
Yeah.
requesting feedback, even on some of your creative work. All right, this is the final viz. I think we
Mhm.
have a couple of minutes on this, but maybe Chimdi, you wanna kick off? This feels like I feel like you have so many types of like business style kind of. This feels up your alley, this type of dashboard.
Yeah, this is definitely a business dashboard. Just off, initial impression, I will say that this guy definitely knows ball, like Morgan, he or she, whoever they are, like they know what's up with respect to,
Yeah,
the business. I like the overview. I like the, singular color. That makes it so much easier to digest. And then when we start going through, like it's a full robust dashboard. So like at the top, we have the filters, solid placement there. You have the KPI tiles again, nicely highlighting the current month, but you can also see the trend leading up to that. And then you have the absolutes with the context at the bottom, just like how you want to do that. You have the status cycle. It's really cool that you have those icons with the arrows, very creative. And then beneath that, you have this. In some contexts, some people might say that's too much. I think it really works here specifically because there's a lot of clean space here. You don't have a lot of colors and just it's not overbearing on the eyes. You have those charts at the bottom, really well done with the icon stuff. Love the heat map. Zainab just clicked it and it filtered. So just the execution on this one is really good. I don't know that I have any negative feedback per se. I think this works really well. If I were to nitpick, maybe I should know. I was gonna say maybe like hide or show filter, but with only three filters, I think it looks good. I
this
think it
is
looks
really
good.
cool, by the way. This like map view. I don't even know what it does. I don't
Yeah,
think
what is this though?
there's any. Maybe this. Oh,
If
I
you
guess
click
this is
it,
to
what happens
show.
when you click it?
It doesn't. I've been clicking. Nothing is happening. Nothing is appearing. Maybe it's meant
Oh,
to
okay.
show the cargo route, but I feel like all the colors are so like muted that it's hard to
They're
follow
deep.
the van. But that
Yeah.
that could be a cool like view if it actually just like highlighted the route. One thing that I was going
Hmm.
to say on this overview is again everything Chimdi said, very clean layout. I think that this section that says package delivering arrived signed, I'm not sure about the icons. I feel
Too
like
big or what?
it's yeah, I think that section is taking so much. I can barely read the
It
actual
does. It
numbers in
does take
terms
up
of like
space.
you're showing me conversion rate, you're showing me conversion rate or arrived or signed. I can't like it's so small compared to these like icons that if you took out the icons, you probably still be able to tell the same story. If you took out this whole section and you put,
True.
delivery rate, arrival rate, signed rate, you will have the same story. So I would say maybe I would
Yeah.
make that part just a bit smaller so that we're clear that it's a heading and the data can actually shine in that way. So I would say, yeah, maybe that one I would nitpick. I think that also they've done so much to like clean up the vase, etc. But then again,
Yeah.
like these icons, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. Would I rather just read text to be like, this is a van, this is a lorry. I don't know what this is a train, this is a ship, and I have no idea what this like I don't know what this particular icon is meant to be. But again, like just putting the text there probably will help
Right. Yeah, the
more than
text is missing. The
yeah,
text is
so more than just the icons here. I feel like that will help. Also, I'm looking at
Yeah.
this calendar. It's not clear to me what month, what the first thing when you're looking at the calendar, you have the month and the year. Granted, I know there's
Hmm.
a month here filter on top, but like it's not so obvious for me. Like if there was a big place that says, okay, 2026, I guess there's a data
Hmm.
refresh, but I just feel like make it easy for me to
Yeah.
know exactly what this is, or at least have tooltips so that when I over on top of it, it reminds me that, oh, you are looking at March 2026 data
Hmm.
or something like that. So
Yeah.
I think it's
Or
just
bring in like the days of
yeah,
the week title, like Monday, Tuesday, add that in because these are the
exactly.
days. So like
Yeah,
maybe bring in the day of week at
exactly. Because
least.
right now I can actually see do we have more on weekends or not because I don't know
Hmm.
what this month is like. The first could be Sunday, but it could be Thursday, right? And so just like
Yeah.
actually make that a calendar. But overall, I think it's clean. I think again, because they try to declutter these bars, I can't really tell what they are. Is this like for March? Is this previous year? Is it previous month? Is it previous quarter? Is it previous day? I can't really tell, right? So
Mm,
if you want to keep it clean, maybe just a small tool tip or something that just like shows me, okay, this is what you're trying to communicate. So I feel like those
yeah.
like little things will take it up a notch. But yeah, I think good attempt. I think we are running out of time, so we should probably like end this here. But
Yeah.
thanks
This one,
everyone.
I think they wanted to be I think they wanted to be very minimalistic here. And
Yeah,
then maybe they can
and they
add some,
sacrifice, yeah, some info and some details, which I get it sometimes.
yeah.
It happens to the best of us, but yeah,
It
just
looks really nice. I would definitely not do this at work though. But
yeah,
like for a portfolio,
yeah,
especially if you're asking for feedback, I think this is when you can put it out there, refine it, have fun with it, but also know that there is more that can be done to make this more impactful for decision making. Because
yeah,
that is the goal. We're not just drawing data to be playful. It's to
yeah,
empower decisions. You
yeah.
feel me? But yeah. No, I like this. All
Cool.
right. Good,
Well,
good variance there.
yeah, and I think we got some good feedback out there. Yeah, thank you everyone. This video will be
Thanks for
live on our
joining.
YouTube. I think in about a week or so. Thanks for joining and see you again in 2 weeks from now.
Cheers.
Bye.